So the sampling frame is something that you want to start off with if you are trying to take a sample. So the sampling frame is a listing of all items that make up the population. So for example, all undergraduates enrolled at WT. If a frame excludes certain portions of the population, it can really lead to dissimilar conclusions. So for example, if I wanted to know for all undergraduates enrolled in WT, if they are satisfied with the class sizes at WT. Now, if my sampling frame only consisted of online students, that might give me a different conclusion, right? If my sampling frame included more students, because online students, you don't really see the impact of a class size. You can be an online student in a class of 120, and it's really not going to make a difference whether you're in a class of 120 or in a class of 7. More so than maybe the professor getting your grades back on time, but you're probably going to see different views of class sizes from online students than traditional students who are in the classroom. Another example might be if your sampling frame only contains freshmen. Now, at bigger universities, a lot of times the introductory courses have lots and lots of students. For example, at OU, the Introductory to Psychology course, as well as the Zoology course, contain 250 to 300 students. Now, if we only ask freshmen if they are satisfied with class sizes at WT, they might say no, they're terrible. However, as these students get up into the upper division courses, their class sizes come down to more of a reasonable size of 30 to 40. And so again, if your sampling frame is excluding portions of the population that you're interested in, then you're going to get a different conclusion. So there are different types of samples. There's non-probability samples and probability samples, and we'll be going over each of these. So in a non-probability sample, items included are chosen without regard to the probability of occurrence. So a type of non-probability sample is convenience sampling. And items are selected based only on the fact that they are easy, inexpensive, or convenient to sample. An example of a convenient sampling would be someone standing outside the grocery store asking if you want to take a survey. That is very convenient for them to do. They don't have to email you or anything like that. You take that survey when you show up. So again, that's very easy. A judgment sample, on the other hand, is when you get the opinions of pre-selected experts in a subject matter. So 4 out of 5 dentists say that Colgate is the best toothpaste. A judgment sample would be, oh, I'm going to pick 5 dentists, and they're going to tell me what their favorite toothpaste is. Another example of a judgment sample would be letters of recommendation. So you get the opinions of pre-selected experts in your subject matter. The problem with these non-probability samples is that you may not get an accurate picture of what you're trying to study. So, for example, if we're looking at the grocery store and I'm trying to see what shoppers' views are on the store, I'm leaving out those people who don't even come to the store, right? We don't get any of their views. Also, with the judgment sample, with the letters of recommendation, I'm only getting letters of recommendation from professors that like you, right? You're not getting letters of recommendation from professors or colleagues that have a negative view of you. Even though if I were to take you might get a different picture of the individual if you take letters of recommendation from a variety of people and not just people that person selected. A probability on the other sample, on the other hand, is that items in the sample are chosen on the basis of known probabilities. So for a simple random sample, every individual item in the frame has an equal chance of being selected, and samples obtained from a table or random numbers or computer random number generators. So the textbook gives the option to choose a sample from a table of random numbers. Now this technique is very outdated and archaic because we do have random number generators on our computer. They're in Excel. You could even Google random number generator, and they're very common. And so they're very easy to access. So we really typically don't use the random number tables anymore, and we just use random number generators. And basically what a simple random sample is essentially you put everyone in the population or in your sample, your sampling frame in the hat, their names in a hat, mix it around, and then you pull it out, and this person is going to be part of your sample. And maybe you'll pick out 10 or 20, and that'll be part of your sample. So with a simple random sample, every single person or individual item has an equal chance of being selected for your sample. An example would be of a simple random sample would be the 1969 Vietnam War draft. They put everyone's birthday in a big barrel, mixed it all up, and picked out birthdays. And if your birthday fell on that day, then you were drafted for the war. A systematic sample, again, isn't used as often because we have simple of the number generators, but the systematic sample is really used when you had a phone book and you wanted an easy way to pick your sample. So you might randomly choose every 7th person in the phone book is going to be part of your sample for grocery store views. So I would pick the 7th person, and then I pick the 14th person, and then so on. So a systematic sample has to do with picking a kth individual in a sampling frame. A stratified sample is really used when you want to make sure that there are certain individuals, not certain individuals, but that there are individuals from certain populations that are chosen. So moving on to the next slide, this is the racial and ethnic makeup of WT. Now, if I was really interested in making students' views on diversity on campus, and I really wanted to make sure that every single ethnicity was represented in my sample, I can't just take a simple random sample, because what are the chances that I would get a Pacific Islander in my sample? It's going to be very low. But I want to make sure that Pacific Islanders are represented in my statistics. What I would have to do is I would have to do a stratified sample. So I would take a random sample of the white students, a random sample of Hispanic students, African American students, Asian Americans, Native Americans, Pacific Islanders, international, other, etc. And that way I can be sure to get certain populations or certain groups within my sample represented.